Glen Hansard, from Dublin streets to the Oscar stage, he started out as a 13-year-old boy busking on Grafton Street, guitar case open, hoping someone might drop in a coin. He ended up standing on an Oscar stage, delivering one of the most heartfelt acceptance speeches in Academy Awards history. On 29 July 2026, Glen Hansard died in a motorcycle crash on the outskirts of Dublin. He was 56 years old. This is the story of a working-class Dublin kid who never stopped believing in the power of a simple song and who left behind a young family, a devoted global following, and a legacy built on absolute honesty. The Streets That Made Him Glen Hansard was born in Dublin in 1970 and grew up in Ballymun, on the city's north side. In interviews, he spoke candidly about witnessing genuine hardship among friends and family growing up, and about how music became his way through it. He discovered Bob Dylan at just 12 years old, taught himself guitar, and made a decision that would define the rest of his life. He left school and began busking on the streets of Dublin. He often described those years performing for passers-by as his true musical education, one that shaped his raw, unfiltered approach to songwriting far more than any formal training could have. In 1990, still a teenager at heart if not in age, he formed the band that would become his musical home for decades, The Frames. From the Commitments to A Global Stage in 1991, Hansard combined his two great loves, music and storytelling, when he was cast in the hit film The Commitments, playing Outspan Foster, a guitarist in a fictional Dublin soul band. The film became a cultural touchstone in Ireland and beyond, and gave Hansard his first real taste of the screen. But it was in 2007 that Hansard's story reached an entirely different level. He co-wrote and starred in the low-budget indie musical Once, playing a Dublin busker who falls into an unlikely creative partnership with a young Czech immigrant, played by Markéta Irglová. Hansard had first met Irglová when she was just 12 years old, and he was 30. And the pair went on to form the musical duo The Swell Season together. The song they wrote for the film, Falling Slowly, captured something rare, an aching, understated honesty that resonated with audiences far beyond the art house crowd the film was originally made for. A decent man, on and off the stage beyond the music, Hansard built a reputation as someone who never forgot where he came from. For years, he led the Christmas Eve charity busk outside Dublin's Gaiety Theatre, an event where members of the public gathered each year to watch some of Ireland's most famous musicians perform in aid of the Dublin Simon Community, an organization dedicated to fighting homelessness. Following news of his death, the Dublin Simon Community released a statement describing him as far more than simply a gifted songwriter, calling him a true advocate for their work and a driving force in the fight against homelessness. In his own generous way, he also remained deeply connected to Ireland's wider musical community. In 2023, at the funeral of the Pogues frontman Shane MacGowan, Hansard performed a rousing tribute that fans still speak about warmly. Finding home, late in life for most of his adult life, Hansard poured himself entirely into music, into The Frames, into The Swell Season, into solo albums, and into the streets and causes of Dublin that shaped him. There was little room left over for much else. Then he met Máire Saaritsa, a Finnish poet, and by his own account, everything shifted. The couple married in 2020, and in October 2022, at the age of 52, Hansard became a father for the first time when their son Christy was born. Hansard spoke about fatherhood with unmistakable joy in his final years, describing it as a complete shift in perspective, and admitting he could hardly believe he'd waited so long to become a dad. On the Swell Season's 2025 album, Forward, he even named Christy directly in a song, calling his son nothing short of a miracle. A loss felt around the world, Glen Hansard died in a single-vehicle motorcycle crash near the Strawberry Beds in Lucan, West Dublin, shortly before 4:30 a.m. On Wednesday, 29th July, his management company, At Sea Management, confirmed the news in a short statement, describing the family as heartbroken and asking for privacy as they process the loss. Tributes arrived quickly from across the world. Ireland's Prime Minister, Micheál, said he was deeply saddened by the loss of a hugely talented musician and actor who had made a significant contribution to Ireland's cultural life. Fellow musician Bruce Springsteen also paid tribute, describing Hansard as a great musician, a good friend, and a generous, gracious man. Glen Hansard spent his whole life turning honesty into song. From a teenager busking for coins on Grafton Street to an Oscar winner still visibly stunned by his own success, to a father in his 50s who called his young son a miracle. He leaves behind a wife, a young son, decades of music that still feels alive, and a city that watched one of its own kids make it all the way to the world stage without ever losing the streets that shaped him.